If you've seen the other videos, I highly recommend them. I'm going to be dissecting different stories, right? Different beats, different experiences that kind of existed along the trail of this journey and how they've come about. Because it's one thing to experience it as in like this is something very heady. This is something that you can think about for millennia to come, I'm sure. But there's another aspect in which you're experiencing it and you can have an experience of this relationship of your distortion and your divinity. And for that, like for the experience and for the entirety of the viewing pleasure, it's just taking a notice of something within your life, something that you've experienced, something that has gone on for you that, for all intents and purposes, did not go the way that you wanted. It could be an experience that you had, it could be a moment in your life that seems to kind of repeat memory wise that shows up. And having that experience, having them show up in a way that is very meaningful. I just realized in the last video I talked about not showing up as that person. I've experienced that story where somebody wasn't themselves in a relationship. That's actually happened more than once as well, hearing that one. I digress though. Noticing those moments in which you've had either introspection or you've had this outward kind of aha of an experience that you had, and just be with it, and be with whatever appears, whatever shows up, whatever experience you've had. And you can list out expectations. For all intents and purposes, I am my own greatest example. And one of the things that have been coming back to me often is just moments of self-bliss. Self-bliss is more that, like, inside of me, I'm happy and I'm content. Yours can be more about a person, an experience that you had. But I'll use one that's internal because it's the one that's coming up for me. Is that this relationship that I have with myself is very important. It's important not for any particular reason, other than self-love is something that isn't necessarily a given in society. It's not necessarily made the norm. I mean, yes, there's always like be yourself and all of these other slogans and taglines. But when it came to like really genuinely loving and recognizing how much I can just be with a state of love that isn't about longing for anyone or anything or any approval, the expectations that existed were, how am I going to maintain this? How am I going to control this? How am I going to live my life this way all the time? Because I know it's not going to stay. Doubt. I have an expectation of doubt. And that there's more that should be important, or things that I should make apparent to myself, that answer the deeper question of like, why am I here? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? That there's an idea of being too happy, too excited, too involved. And it's interesting. Like, I picked up the pen because I was going to write, but I highly recommend that you write whatever comes up for you in your example of expectation. it's so funny thinking that, like, an expectation of you can be too happy, you can have too much of a good thing. It's too easy to have good things in your life. It's just wild, even for me, while I'm talking about it, while I'm experiencing this live right now. And just give to myself that thing, right? So expectation, give. So give myself. What is it like to give myself those things? Once I've given it to myself, what is it that I'm receiving now that I've given it to myself? Compassion. The ability to just be with a lot of the absurdity of my own experience, my resistance to the absurdity of my experience, the trials and tribulation that I put myself through in order to be more, in order to achieve something that I already have access to. I already have access to love in myself, to feel loving, to express a lovingness, to recognize that there is an innate nature to love, to expression of that love, and I can receive those things. I can explore those things, and as I'm receiving those things, I'm also giving them in exchange through my voice, because I'm giving just as much as I'm receiving it. And for those who listen, they are also receiving and also giving of their attention to themselves. And this is universal. This is an impact that you can have with just 3 things. The expectation of something that is reoccurring in your life, be it a memory or an experience, and give to yourself that which you are experiencing, and then receive. And then you go back and forth between giving and receiving, and what you're giving and receiving. Same too. When you give it, when you receive it, you're expanding on that thing, just like an idea. If you ever spitballed an idea or something that just came off the top of your head with a friend, or involved yourself with others, all of those relationships connect with the same. There's an innate giving and receiving that doesn't require a lot to do. It could be just one thing. It could be a few things, it could be a handful of things, but the more you share about it, the more you explore what's there. And I've done this for quite a few different things, created many different things based on this idea that I have an idea. And by sharing this idea, it becomes more alive. This entire series of Distorted Masculinity is just me feeding into an idea, me feeding into giving of myself and my time to receive something that I otherwise was considering all the time, rather than actually creating. And this is likely going to end up all over the place, because I'm getting ideas about where it's going to end up. Because it's important that it ends up somewhere, that it's not just on my phone and never sees the light of day. That's not very important, because just because it's on my phone doesn't mean it's going anywhere, that it gains any traction, that it doesn't end up in front of the people that it needs to end up in front of, which only requires a little bit of editing and taking into consideration what I'm wanting to display through the experience of these videos. And that's that divinity and the right to something is just being able to say yes to what you're giving and also what you're willing to receive at the time, because it's 3 very simple steps. And each step is just the recognition that these things kind of just happen anyway. You have an expectation of what's going on. I have an expectation of what's going on. It's a feeling, a thought, a consideration of what's happening. And then giving it to myself. Receive it. And it's just that easy to switch between the distortion and the divine. Because eventually you're just going to talk about all of the divine things that are there if you practice it. Because the nature of practice and strengthening oneself through practice is just, it becomes familiar, it becomes second nature. It's just a muscle that you're building. Just like exploring topics, it's just about building a muscle. You explore the topic because you're curious, and because you're curious, you're willing to explore it, and because you're willing to explore it, you are feeding your curiosity, which tells you everything, your neurology, all of that, that yes, I'm interested in this, I want more of this, I would like more of this, so I'm going to get more of this. And I use expectation, but expectation is more of a notice. Just notice what's there. Notice the memory, notice the experience, and give to yourself the ability to receive what you're noticing, and then receive more by giving to it, so on and so forth, until that experience is done. Because even for like experiencing that self-love, it's just, it is governance of all things. All things are held in love. It's actually one of the person who spent one of the longest times in a near-death experience. That's exactly what he came back to write about. He spent 40 minutes there. He was dead for 40 minutes. It was like 40 or 50. One of those. You can always look it up. But he was brain dead for a good while. He came back, he was extremely depressed because the world wasn't as beautiful as it was on the other side. But that's because there was no distortion. There was none of this in the way of living his life and experiencing his life fully and completely. Because there is a nature in which things are whole and complete already. It's just we stand in the way of seeing it for what it is. And for him to stand in the way stopped him from really experiencing it when he came back. Everything is love was another guy, and his wife ended up leaving him and poisoning the children against him, so he didn't really get to see them. But it was all he could say when he came back, was that it's all love. There's nothing but it. Again, it goes against the distortion. The distortion assumes that there's a way that you have to survive and protect your love from the rest of the world, because the world is going to take it. The world is going to steal what you love and use it against you. Is that true? Inherently? No. No, it's not. Intrinsically? No. Metaphorically? No. Distortion? Yes. Distortion will always assume that what you love can't survive the scrutiny of existence. But existence is just a mirror to what you already assume is going on. And the distortion reaffirms the problem that you see, whether it's control, whether it's power, whether it's wealth, whether it's success, whether it's literally anything. There's a distortion between you and it, otherwise you would have it. And oftentimes, even significance, the ability to be seen, that can also be a problem. I know that's one of mine. It can be there as a distortion. It doesn't inherently mean I can't love or give my love freely. It just colors it differently if I let it versus just letting what's naturally in me to give to be given freely. And with that, you've got an exercise you can try out just to notice, give to yourself, experience it, receive, repeat as needed. It's very simple. The only difficulty is keeping up with it and remembering that you have this tool in your arsenal. You have this ability that you can use. It's there, and it's yours for the using. And with that, I leave this here, and I'll catch you